if I told you the secret to finishing your PhD, landing on a TEDx stage, and building a top 1% podcast isn't working harder? What if the answer is smaller? 2 pages, 15 minutes, one micro movement at a time. Today, you're about to discover why the most successful people don't think bigger. They think petite. And this one mindset shift will change everything about how you build your business, your body, and your life. This is Walk in Victory. Let's go.
Now available. Awakening I Am, Internal Awareness in an AI Age audiobook, and our Victory Builders platform, which integrated system for founders who execute, is open. Links in the description. Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening. Oh, we got to stop again. Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman. And you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory walks, if we're going to be victorious, it all starts with mindset. The mindset has to shift from one who's not walking in victory to one that is walking in victory. And in everything is the mind first. My first business was construction. And if I look back at that industry, the architect was the brain, because the architect would draw, we would take the drawings and present to the community what the architect drew. But if there was no designs with all of the formulations, how wide the doors needed to be within code, and where the windows needed to be, we would just walk into a piece of property and freestyle. And that's how many of us are living our lives. We're freestyling our lives. And when you freestyle, you may get some good hits. You may hit some home runs. You may have some good thoughts. But what happens when we take the time and sit down with ourselves and think something through? If we compare the two, the guy who just shoots from the hip every chance they get, and the girl who sits down and count the cost and then make a move. There's some famous stories, and I think that these famous stories about hip hop artists who goes into the booth and they say, oh, he went to the booth, he didn't do a double take, didn't write anything down, heard the beat and started going at it. But what they're not saying is that this person spends countless hours going over material in their head so that when they get to the booth, they can have these moments where they don't have to write anything down. They're so one in their craft that they sleep, they eat, they drink it. And it comes from mindset. They've shifted. They've went from creator to creator. There's different level of creativity. There's different levels of craftsmanship. And I'm using that artistry as a reference point for those of you in your industry. You have the opportunity to become creator to creator, to take yourself to a different level, to know your customer, to understand your products, goods, or services on a new heightened level. And it all starts with mindset. How much time are you spending in your mind with what it is that you offer to the world? And that's what this conversation is going to be centered around, so that you can be better at articulating, you can be better at creating revenue, and you can create wealth in whatever industry you're in. It doesn't matter the industry. If you could adapt these skill sets that we're going to be discussing today, you hear me flipping up words. They did it right. If you adapt these skill sets that we're going to be discussing today, you will be better. Christian, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thanks so much for having me here.
No, thank you for joining us. There's a little lag but we'll get through it.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you don't mind, and it's on my end, it's not on your end. If you don't mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself and what are
Sure.
you doing and what are you presenting to the world?
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Christiane Schroeter. I working in California as a professor. I teach innovation, entrepreneurship, marketing. I'm also working as a business and wellness coach. So really, I help students in the classroom get their business started, and then I frequently see clients that have their small or mid-sized business and they need to get that off the ground or scaling that. And then, of course, I'm also a mom. I have 2 teenage daughters. We live here in beautiful California, and what better way to really enjoy this area? I'm also very much into health and wellness, and I think as a business owner, that's one of the most important things to take care of yourself, and that's really where the mindset discussion comes in here today. So I'm excited to share some really cool tips and tricks how to get unstuck and get rid of that overwhelm that we sometimes struggle with.
Doctor, you've helped thousands of people to get unstuck and to find clarity. And sometimes we take that for granted that this is your superpower, that this is the thing that you do.
Mhm.
Take me back to a point where you were stuck and you realized that your stuck position was put there, your obstacle became your superpower. How was that transition for you?
Mhm. Yeah, so when I was actually even writing my dissertations, I was in the PhD program. I earned my PhD in applied economics at Purdue University. I felt, there's a lot of work to do. I need to write a dissertation. I need to finish my classes. I need to pass all the exams. And of course, all that is in a finite amount of time. So I felt no matter where I turned, there was a lot of work, and it wasn't exactly that I knew how I could tackle one or the other. Then what really helped
Yeah,
me was that I had family that kind of like was looking forward to the end of all that journey. Like, when is she going to be done with her PhD? When is she like applying to become a full professor? And I think that's really what helped me. Oh, I am stuck right now.
that's amazing because that journey is something that we take for granted that people actually struggle because I'm pretty sure you did it gracefully and people started to look from the outside in saying that you got it all together. You probably was the smartest one in the family and all that other stuff. But it's difficult. How did you now turn your personal journey into something
Mhm.
that you could identify and help people out with?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that the main thing whenever we feel stuck in overwhelm is that we tend to look at the overall goal and the overall outcome, and we feel we need to tackle it all at once. It's not really where the
Mm,
magic comes in. The magic really comes in starting with one small step. And you can hear from my accent, I'm from Europe, right? So I actually gave that particular action a name. I call it a petite, French for small, practice. Practice being the emphasis because we never want to aim for perfection. We always want to just go and go try something, and it might be victorious. I like that word that you used earlier, or it might be just another victory in learning something. But just by
mhm.
moving, by taking action, by taking that practice, we're already chipping away at that big goal because we're not just sitting on the sideline feeling stuck and feeling overwhelmed, but we're actually moving, and that momentum will already change our mindset because it will fuel our energy. We're feeling we're actually doing something.
I like that whole petite reference to petite because in I just finished my first book and it's dealing with the subconscious mind. And this is I teach mindfulness and yoga, and I talk about micro movements. Where now I teach
Exactly.
seniors the senior who may come in. Oh, perfect example. Yesterday, one of my guys, he had a stroke, and I noticed when we're doing our twist and our triangle pose, he takes his left hand and he still guides the right hand down, even though the right hand doesn't have that much mobility. He could easily say, I can't really move my right side, so I'm gonna sit this one out. But what he's guiding and these micro movements, and I stopped and I asked him first. In my younger years, I just would have pointed him out. And I came to him and I said, because he's one of the gentlemen in a room full of women that's taking a class. So, do you mind if I use that as an example? He said, no, sure. And that I showed them that what will eventually happen with him, he may not ever get full mobility back in that that arm, but he's creating a new neural pathway. And by him doing these micro movements or these petite movements, one day the arm may drop, but he will never know without doing it. When you came up with this concept, is that what you
Mhm.
had in mind? Taking these small movements,
Mhm.
these bite-sized um, chunks, and swallowing the whole.
Love it. It's such a powerful comparison. So all what there is really that anything can be broken down into small, whether that's time, right? Our most precious resource, broken down into small chunks of time that we spend on building our business, on working out, on spending time with loved ones. It doesn't always have to be this full blown out dinner. It could just be that you're spending time with friends and family, maybe grabbing coffee or sitting down for a tea or ice cream. Anything can be broken down into that petite micro moment, and that will really generate the mindset that has a more positive and joyful experience than feeling overwhelmed because you feel everything comes in chunks of hours. And that's really where it came from. So coming back to my dissertation, I finished very successfully, actually earned the dissertation award in that year with my dissertation. You know what helped me? I wrote 2 pages a day. 2 pages a day. And while that might not sound a lot, if you do it every single day, that dissertation grows quite quickly. But it's not really something that feels overwhelming on the day off because 2 pages is pretty manageable and it also builds momentum. So that's really where it came from. Mhm. What a beautiful question. I love that. Kind of makes me emotional right now because it's like my baby. I trademarked it. Petite Practice is my trademark for 2 reasons, right? We all are our own unique brand, and that is really something that I feel stands very much for who I am, the small micro movements that have that particular word, the small steps that lead to the big impact that I labeled as Petite Practice. I use it on a daily basis in various instances, right? I for instance, just gave a TED Talk 2 days ago, TEDx stage. How did I prepare for it? With Petite Practice. Every day practicing my talk, right? So I didn't just chunk all the preparation into 2 weeks and felt totally overwhelmed in memorizing a script, but I got started and memorized a little chunks at a time, and that's really the magic. And then, of course, even, during the day, might not have an hour, to spend with somebody, with a client, but I might have 15 minutes. So I could break that hour into 4 clients and see 4 clients in an hour, and that really makes my day. And I think, my own podcast ranked in the top 1%. Every episode is about 15 minutes long. I think that's really the magic for me is like small chunks of time create joy and they create momentum, and you can use them to really bring a little bit variety into your day, make it more colorful and joyful than just feeling you need to sit all day at your desk. Because guess what? That's not where the ideas are happening. And that's not really where all of a sudden you're going to get this huge like spark of a moment of what you want to do with your life. It's not. It's going to happen when you spend time with loved ones, when you maybe go for that walk, or maybe when you meditate or do your yoga session. That's when the magic happens. That's your micro moment. Let's do it. Mhm. It's easy. Yeah, it's easy. I see clients and they don't know each other and they're just kind of like little stars. What brings me most joy is when they understand that they're all part of a constellation. They're all connected. When I build community with people that walked into the room that didn't know each other at all, and with my coaching, that all of a sudden they understand they have more in common than what they really assumed to begin with. When they walk away with a smile because they feel they build connection, they build community, and they might even build some future business partners. But again, it's the intention that we need to just come together and we need to build those communities wherever we look, whether that's as small in a group of 10 or as big in a group of 100. We just need to find people that we connect with. Because at the end of the day, if you look at this, this is really what brings us joy in connecting with others and spending time with loved ones. And that's what brings me most joy when I'm the change maker that builds communities. Yep. Thanks. Mm, mm. Yeah. Mm. Mm. It's actually that's my secret weapon, to be honest with you. Think about that. I would walk into a room and people would completely underestimate me, right? They're going to look at me. They're not going to think that I just gave a TED talk. They're not going to think that I have a PhD. They don't even think that I have children. And that's my superpower because all of a sudden they just let me in those conversations. I'm like, like just hanging out there, and all of a sudden they're like, "You got what? You got a PhD from Purdue? Who just gave a TED talk? What?" That's my superpower. Yeah, you always want to be the humble student. You never want to be the bragger. And I know that some people, as I say, I teach fitness classes, and when I teach Pilates, for instance. Just yesterday I taught Pilates. People completely underestimate me. They look at me and I'm like, there's this little lady. And then I pick up the weights and they pick up the same weights. And then all of a sudden they like start taking the weights off. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. When you get to the point where you teach something that looks so easy, that somebody else thinks it's easy, then you mastered it, right? And that is my superpower, that I make frequently things appear very easy, very fun, very joyful, because I want to help others get there too. And that is really something I love in life. Where for instance, I present on a stage to 1,000 people and it looks like I have the biggest blast in my life. And I did, and I as I say, for me it's that. Mm, yeah, yeah. Mm, mhm, mhm. Mm. So, in terms of, like, how did I come up with the idea? Is that your question? Well, I'm born in Germany. So deep down, all European. And I always think that you have to kind of look at your roots, right? So I have one of my books actually lying right here, and it's called Discover Your Superpower. So look, if we are a tree, we always have to think about our roots. And I think my roots, I'm born in Germany. So for me, there was no doubt that whatever my mantra would be, it would be somewhat you rooted in Europe. And I think that's really where the archetype started. And then it just I now living in California, so just got a little replanted along the way. Oops.